All right, so we are going to draw this graph table that we're going to build. We're going to draw everything, all the parts, but we're not going to include the holes in the top. We're just going to draw the top, but we're not going to go through and redraw all these holes. All right. So I'm going to go through this. What you want to do first is go to open up Onshape, create a new document, and you're going to call it graph table, and make sure you include your name in there somewhere, first, last, whatever. Okay. So we're going to draw this. We're going to draw all 5 parts: the front, the back, the side, and the top. And they're all going to be separate parts. Refer to your design brief, right, to know exactly in your dimension drawings to know exactly what we're putting together. Okay. So let's draw the front of the table. So I'm going to pull up the drawing here. We're going to draw the front. We know the dimensions are, and I can zoom in. The front, it's 15 by 3 inches by 3/4 of an inch. So let's click sketch up here in the plane, right? Click the front plane. We're going to draw this on the front plane. It will not redirect you. So you can either hit the front plane on the view cube or hit N on your keyboard, and that means normal 2, and it will bring you to the normal view of that plane that you're on. So first thing we're going to do is let's draw a rectangle. So I click the corner rectangle tool, click the origin. We try to start a drawing off of this origin. Click and drag. Now, we know this is 15 inches across, so I type in 15, hit enter, and it's going to we have to define the height. We know this is 3 inches, so I type in 3, hit enter, and now you'll notice that the lines are black. That means they're constrained. We want that. Now, what I like to do is I just right-click and get out of the tool, so I hit escape rectangle, and then I can just drag these dimensions out of the way. So our sketch is done. It's fully defined, meaning there's no blue lines. All the lines are defined. It's 15 by 3, and it's drawn at the origin, so it can't move. Let's rename this sketch. So up here, there's a pencil symbol. I click this and retitle this as exactly what it is. It's the front. I hit the green check. Great. You can also rename it over here on the feature tree. So we need to extrude this to make it apart. So I rotate it. I click the extrude button up on the toolbar or hit Shift E. Click what I want to extrude. Doesn't necessarily matter the direction. That's fine. But we want to define it. It's a new part. We also want to define the thickness. We know it's 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch, right? However you want to write that, as a fraction or as a decimal, it doesn't matter. I hit the green check mark. Before I do that, I'm going to rename this as front. Hit OK. Now we have our sketch labeled front, our extrusion labeled as front, and our part was now just created. Now don't keep it as part 1. Rename that. So right click and rename that as front as well, so we can keep track of all our drawings, all our sketches, all our extrusions. Great. Now we need to draw the side pieces. Okay, so we're going to do this a little bit differently. So we're going to start a sketch on the surface of the end here. So where my cursor is blinking. So I'm going to click here. And what you can do is just click that face. You'll know it's clicked because it's orange. And I can click the sketch command. Now I want to view that side there. So what I have to do is hit N on my keyboard. If you click the right plane, it will redirect you, but I find it easier just to hit N on my keyboard, and I'm directly on that plane. It's kind of like a home key. So now we're going to draw a rectangle, right? We're essentially drawing this piece here. So follow along, it'll start to make sense. So click the rectangle tool in that sketch. Click this corner and just drag it. We'll define it after. We know this is according to our dimensions, it's 16.5, 16 and a half by 2 inches. Great. So I have my two-dimensional sketch. I'm going to just drag these out of the way. All the lines are black. They're constrained to a point and they're defined. I'm going to rename this sketch to side A and hit the green check mark, and we have it. Now, we need to extrude this. So the same process. I'm going to hit the extrude command. We'll hit Shift E on my keyboard. Now, you're going to have to click both parts. So I click this section, but you're also going to have to click that other rectangle there. And you're not going to, you want to make sure you're reading this correctly. You do not want to add this to that part. You're going to create a new part. So I click new, and the depth again is going to be 0.75. You want to make sure you're going in this direction. So we're going out away from the front. I'm going to name this extrusion as side A and hit the green check mark. Now we have a new part. So we have the part 2. So I'm going to rename this as side A. If I'm going too fast, remember, you can slow the video down. All right. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to create another side. So what I need to do is rotate around. Now my planes are kind of getting in my way, so I'm just going to get rid of these. We'll rotate around. I'm going to click the end here because we're going to create another sketch. I want to hit the sketch command. And again, you can either hit the view cube or I hit N on my keyboard and it redirects me. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click the rectangle, corner rectangle command. Click off of this here. And I'm going to redraw. And if you click, remember, you can add the dimensions after. So say I clicked too early before defining my sketch, you can come back, hit the dimensions key, D for dimension, or the dimension tools up here. And I'll define this. The top line is 16.5, and the side dimension here is 2 inches. There it is. I'm going to rename this side B. Great. Now I need to do the same thing. Extrude it. Make sure you're clicking both parts so you have the whole thing. You're not adding it to anything. You're creating a new part. And the depth is 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch. Rename the extrusion as side B. Now we have another part down here in the feature tree that we're going to label as side B, sorry. So now what we're going to do, we're going to create that sketch on the back here. So I click the end of one of the sides, create a new sketch on that plane, and on my keyboard. Now what I'm going to do is make sure I have the corner rectangle. So I'm going to go up here, corner rectangle. And I'm going to click, I'm going to start here, click once, release, and drag to the bottom here. And you don't have to dimension it because it's already constrained by the inside of these two, so you can kind of see where it is. It's on the edge there. Now I'm going to rename this as back. Okay. Now I want to extrude that. So the same thing's going to apply we've been doing before. Now click this, and you want to make sure, see how the arrow is pointing out? You want to turn that arrow around so it's going inside the box itself. You're creating a new part, and that's going to be a depth of 0.75. And we'll title this extrusion back. So we have, if I turn this around, you should have a front, a side A, a side B, and then I'll retitle that part 4 as the back. You should have 4 parts of our drawing. Up until now, we have all our pieces and our sketches and extrusions labeled. Now, the last part is drawing the top. So these are all level, right? So I'm going to click the top view. I'm going to click sketch, and I'm just going to click the top of one of these pieces here. I'll just click this one, the side. Now the same thing. I'm going to click corner rectangle and drag from this outside point to the opposing outside point. The dimensions are already constrained because we're using the side pieces. I'm going to title this top. Check. I'm going to hit extrusion. Click on that. Make sure you're creating a new piece. We're going to title this extrusion top. Oh, and I'm realizing I made a mistake. I have to go back and just adjust my sketch. If you can see here, I forgot to drag my rectangle to the outside here. I had grabbed from the inside. So I'm going to go back to my sketch. Oh, my sketch was fine. It looks like my extrusion was wrong. So I'm going to click the extrusion and make sure I clicked both rectangles within my extrusion. Everything looks good. The top's a little thick. I think in the dimensions, it is supposed to be 0.5. So let me go back and change that extrusion thickness or depth to 0.5 or half an inch. I'm going to rename my part 5 as top. Now, we should have, if your drawing's correct, you'll have all your sketches labeled, all your extrusions labeled, and all your parts labeled: front, side A, side B, back, and top. Double check your drawing.